As we mark our 54th Victory Day, I find myself looking back not just at the dates in our history book, but at the very soul of our nation. 54 years ago, we stood on the cliff of a dream. We fought for a land of dignity, justice, and truth. But today, when I look at the streets of our capital and the faces of our people, I am forced to ask the hardest question of all. What did we truly fight for? And what have we allowed ourselves to become? To understand where we are and where we must remember where we started, I had the privilege of witnessing a nation pouring its very lifeblood into breaking the chain of subjugation. What kind of Bangladesh did we imagine then? It wasn't just about a flag or a border. It was a vision rooted in tolerance. We dreamt of a nation united by humanity, where justice wasn't a luxury but a right. We saw a Bangladesh where the older generation didn't just lead but nurtured the young, equipping them to thrive with joy and the purpose. We imagined a beautiful canvas where the values of Islam and the heritage of our tribal and religious brothers were woven together into a single, unbreakable fabric of national pride. This was a dream we cherished. But today, 54 years later, we must ask what we have actually received. What is the reality staring back at us in the mirror? We see an intolerant society stripped of the very values that once defined our struggle. We see the dream of equality has been hijacked by a new class of plunderers elites, comprising a circle of politicians, oligarchs, civil and military bureaucrats, who have turned our resources into their personal property. They didn't build a nation for you, they built a system for themselves. While the people fought to liberate this country from subjugation in 1971, these leaders have treated the future of Bangladesh like a trophy to be looted. The spirit of humanity has been replaced by a ruthless, cold selfishness. A nation is only as strong as its institutions are. But in our Bangladesh, those pillars have not just cracked, they have crumbled. We have seen our judiciary grew spineless, acting as a shield for criminals and corrupt politicians rather than a sword for justice. We have seen our security forces, the very men sworn to protect us, became the instrument for persecution, serving a fascist ruler rather than the people. But perhaps the most heartbreaking are the so-called intellectuals. These were the men and women who should have been our moral compass. Instead, they sold their pens. They spent the last decade spinning narrative to justify the unjustifiable, choosing the warmth of the ruler's shadow over the cold, hard truth of the people's suffering. They didn't just fail us. They betrayed the very idea of Bangladesh. There is a fundamental truth that our leaders have spent 5.5 decades trying to make us forget that the people are the owner of this country. In 1971, we did not fight to replace the Pakistani masters with one set of Bangladeshi masters. We fought to be the masters of our own destiny. But look where we are today. Our mainstream politicians have never allowed us to feel that ownership. Instead, they treat the country's land, its resources, and its very future as their own family property. They don't see themselves as public servants. They see themselves as elected to plunder. And sadly, they have found willing associates in the bureaucracy and security forces who act not as the protectors of the people, but as the private guards of a corrupt elite. These politicians never ask themselves why the people don't trust them. They never ask if they are serving the entire country. Because in their minds, the country belongs to the party, the family, and the few. Numbers don't lie, but they do tell a story of systematic theft. If you want to see how much our leaders care about the entire country, look at the budget. How can we explain that 1/3 of the 64 districts were allotted less than 1% of total development budget for last 15 years? These are districts whose contribution to the national GDP is double and sometimes more than double of their tiny allocations that they received for development. For example, Dhaka and Chittagong has only double-figure allocation of development budget, which is between 24 to 11% of the bigger pie. The next largest chunk is Gopalganj, who gets 6% of the development budget. Meanwhile, places like Jaipurhat, Panchgord, Jhalokati, Sherpur, Nagaon, Chuadanga are left with the cramps of 0.17% to 0.8%. Why didn't their members of parliament stand up? Why didn't they object? Because they were not working for their constituencies. They were working for the system that keeps the elite fed while the rest of the nation starves for progress. In the 54th year of our Victory Day, we are faced with a new crisis. Can a nation survive respectfully when its very word is doubted by the rest of the world? This is a stigma we have earned. When a Bangladeshi student applies for a university abroad or a worker applies for a visa, they are met with a wall of suspicion. Why? Because the international community has tagged us as unreliable. Our certificates are not trustworthy. Our information is considered doubtful. We are forced to wait in longer lines, undergo extra scrutiny, and face humiliating delays. This is not just a clerical issue, it is a moral crisis. When our papers are treated as scrap, we must ask, from where did we get this stigma? It didn't come from the outside. It was manufactured within our own borders through a massive celebration of forgery for last 15 years. We must be honest with ourselves. Where did this culture of deception begin? It starts unbelievably early. It starts with a fake birth date provided by parents to get a child into school. Think about it. If a child's very first official interaction with the world is a lie, what value for integrity can they possibly hold? We have turned our schools into training ground for cheating. Our teachers, who should be the moral compass of the next generation, are the ones leaking question papers. From there, it becomes a massive, gruesome celebration of forgery. Forged certificates, forged voter list, forged ID cards, forged PhD degrees, and even forged court orders. We have built a society where success is synonymous with fraud. If our life starts with a lie, how can we expect our nation to stand on the truth? We have diagnosed the disease. It's a social cancer called a lack of integrity. But a diagnosis is useless without a cure. The solution does not lie in a new law or in a new building. It lies in building a new generation of human beings who are immune to the toxicity of lies. We must return to the beginning. We need to bring back the moral lessons of my youth. The late 60s and 70s, reinforced by timeless strength of religious values. This is an uphill task. It's a steep climb to the peak of success, but we cannot afford to fail. People like me, who have seen the dream and the decay, must now offer ourselves. We must start voluntary services to groom our youth. We must ensure our children speak the truth, even when it is hard. We must create a generation that finds it impossible to cheat. So here we stand on the 54th Victory Day of our beloved Bangladesh. The dream of 1971 is still waiting to be realized. We cannot wait for the politicians to change. We cannot wait for the system to fix itself. The change must begin with the words that leave us our own mouth. Let this be our promise today. No more forged certificate, No more justifying the lies for the sake of regime. No more silence in the face of looting. Let us promise that from this day forward, we will speak the truth, the only truth, and nothing but the truth. It is the only way to wash away the stigma. It is the only way to build a nation that survives respectfully in the eyes of the world. Our fathers fought for our land. Now we must fight for our soul. Happy Victory Day. Let the truth set us free.